hundreds of dollars for a pair of Nike sneakers that do not physically exist.
Yeah, it's wild to think about.
I mean, they can't wear them to school. They can't touch them. They are purely digital assets sitting on a server somewhere, just worn by a virtual avatar.
Exactly.
But to those kids, those digital shoes are just as real, and they carry just as much of a social status symbol as the physical canvas and rubber sitting in your closet right now.
It's a completely different reality.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, how did we get to a point where human beings assign tangible, hard-earned financial value to invisible things?
Well, it sounds like science fiction when you frame it that way, but it's actually the logical endpoint of a very specific, meticulously engineered trajectory.
Right.
To understand why a virtual shoe holds real value, you have to look at the secret engine driving modern society. You have to look at the 70-year evolution of marketing.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Whether you are a business owner trying to survive your next quarter, a consumer wondering why your social media feed seems to read your mind.
Which is terrifying, by the way.
Totally terrifying. Or if you're just insanely curious about the hidden forces shaping your behavior, understanding this evolution is the ultimate cheat code to decoding the modern world.
It really is the cheat code.
So our mission today is to trace the ultimate chronological journey of marketing theory. We've got this fascinating deep dive document that charts how we went from selling basic, interchangeable industrial products out of brick and mortar factories.
The really old school stuff.
Yeah, all the way to crafting these immersive, blended digital physical realities we live in today.
And we are treating this as an archaeological dig through human psychology, because marketing isn't just about what companies want to sell.
Right.
It's a mirror reflecting what human beings desperately need at any given moment in history.
Okay, let's unpack this. The foundational bedrock of everything we are going to talk about today comes down to Philip Kotler's definition of marketing.
Right. Kotler is the legend here.
He essentially wrote the Bible on this.
Yeah.
He defines marketing as the process of planning and executing the development, pricing, promotion, and distribution of ideas, goods, and services to create exchanges that satisfy individual and organizational goals.
I mean, it is a dense academic definition for sure.
Very dense.
But it's brilliant because it establishes the absolute baseline. Marketing is an exchange. It is not coercion.
Yeah, it's not just shouting through a megaphone at a passive crowd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is a multidimensional value exchange that requires high-level strategic planning and relentless operational execution.
You can't just have a great product.
No, not at all. If your pricing is wrong, the exchange fails. If your distribution is broken, the exchange fails. It's this massive, high-stakes balancing act.
And the climax of our conversation today is going to explore exactly where that balancing act has led us.
Which is a pretty wild place.
It really is. We are going to connect the dots from the messy post-war factories of the 1950s all the way to today's marketing 6.0 paradigm.
Where Gen Z and Gen Alpha are living in this blended digital reality.
But to understand the destination, we have to understand the starting line. So let's jump back to the 1950s.
The post-war economic boom.
Right. Factories are churning out consumer goods at an unprecedented rate. The middle class has all this disposable income, and the interaction between the producer and the market is just sheer, unadulterated chaos.
Chaos is honestly the perfect word for it. Prior to this era, the problem was simply production.
Just making the stuff.
Exactly. How do we make enough stuff? But suddenly, in the 1950s, factories were producing more than people strictly needed for basic survival.
So the problem changed.
Right. Now, the problem wasn't making the product. It was convincing people to choose your product over the competitors. Business managers were completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of variables they suddenly had to control.
Which brings us to Neil Borden. In the 1950s, Borden tries to make sense of this new hyper-competitive landscape by creating what he called the marketing mix.
The original mix.
Yeah. And he listed 12 elements that a manager had to balance. Listen to this list. It's crazy.
Go for it.
Product planning, pricing, branding, channels, personal selling, advertising, promotions, packaging, display, service, logistics, and market research.
I mean, it's exhaustively comprehensive.
Oh, totally.
Borden accurately mapped every single operational lever a business could theoretically pull.
Sure, it's accurate, but functionally.
Mm-hmm.
Borden's model is like an unwieldy kitchen pantry where everything is just thrown onto the shelves at random.
That's a great way to put it.
You open the door looking for the salt, and a bag of flour just falls on your head.
Right.
How could a 1950s business manager possibly balance 12 heavily interdependent, overlapping variables in their daily strategy.
They couldn't. It induced total decision paralysis.
Because you can't build a cohesive plan when you're bogged down trying to separate packaging from display at the highest executive level.
Exactly. If you tell a CEO to optimize 12 distinct variables simultaneously, they are going to fail. The model was analytically correct, but practically useless. It lacked an organizing principle.
Enter Jerome McCarthy in 1960.
Yes, the game changer.
He takes one look at Borden's chaotic pantry and realizes the industry doesn't need more variables. It needs categorization.
So true.
McCarthy synthesizes those 12 unwieldy elements into the elegant, universally recognized classic framework. The 4 Ps: product, price, place, promotion.
This was just an absolute masterclass in crystallization. McCarthy recognized that human brains need simplification to act decisively.
Right.
He took Borden's mess and grouped the variables by asking 4 fundamental questions that every business must answer.
Let's walk through those mechanisms because they are so elegant. The first question is, what is actually being sold?
And that becomes product.
Right, which neatly absorbs Borden's product planning, branding, and packaging. The second question is, how much value are we exchanging?
Which obviously becomes price, encompassing pricing strategies, discounts, and payment terms.
Then the third question is, where does the transaction happen? That becomes place, which takes over channels, logistics, and inventory management.
And the final question is, how is the world going to know about this?
Promotion.
Exactly. That rolls up advertising, personal selling, and public relations.
It is beautifully clean. It gives a manager exactly 4 distinct controllable levers. But why did it work so phenomenally well in the 1960s?
That's the key context.
Because you have to assume that if you deployed the 4 Ps today, just dropping a product in a place with a price and a promotion, you'd be crushed by modern competition.
Oh, absolutely crushed. The 4 Ps were devastatingly effective in the 1960s because of the specific macroeconomic and sociological conditions of the time.
Like the mass culture.
Exactly. You had a relatively homogenous mass culture. There were only 3 major television networks.
Just 3. That's wild to think about now.
I know. And suburbs were booming, meaning millions of people were living highly similar lifestyles and developing highly uniform desires.
So it was simpler.
Very much so. If you nailed the product, set a fair price, got it into the local department store place, and ran a catchy TV promotion, you won. The environment was simple enough that a simple framework could dominate it.
And then in 1967, Philip Kotler takes McCarthy's elegant 4 Ps and essentially canonizes them.
Yes.
Kotler brings this framework into the global academic spotlight. But Kotler wasn't just a salesman. He had a PhD in economics from MIT.
Right. He was trained by giants like Paul Samuelson and Milton Friedman.
Which is huge.
What's fascinating here is that background is the crucial mechanism. Before Kotler, marketing was largely viewed by serious academics as the slightly sleazy, intuitive art of door-to-door salesmanship.
Yeah, like a dark art, not a science.
Exactly. Kotler changed that. He brought rigorous statistical modeling, behavioral science, and heavy economic theory to the discipline.
He proved it wasn't just intuition.
Right. He showed it was a predictable, measurable science of understanding and satisfying human needs. He elevated the entire profession.
But society didn't freeze in 1967.
No, it definitely didn't.
The world kept turning, and the fundamental nature of the economy started to shift. We began moving away from an economy defined entirely by manufacturing, making tangible things you could drop on your foot, toward a service-based economy.
A big pivot.
Yeah. And as that shift happened, McCarthy's beautiful, simple 4 Ps started showing some massive structural cracks.
Because a tangible product behaves completely differently from an intangible service.
Right.
I mean, if you were selling a refrigerator or a bar of soap, the 4 Ps work perfectly. But what happens if you were selling a haircut?
Or a commercial flight.
Or a life insurance policy? You can't put a haircut in a box on a shelf. The 4 Ps simply don't cover the entire operational reality of that exchange.
Right, which forces the first major evolution. In 1981, Booms and Bittner recognized that the service industry was choking on the limitations of the 4 Ps, so they expanded the model to the 7 Ps.
They kept the original 4, but added to them.
Yeah, they added people, process, and physical evidence. Now, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Doesn't adding more fees just walk us right back toward Borden's messy 12-element pantry? Doesn't it ruin the beautiful, actionable simplicity that McCarthy created just 20 years prior?
It absolutely feels like clutter at first glance. I totally get that.
Right.
But you have to look at the specific mechanics of a service business. Let's take banking, health, or tourism. In a manufacturing business, the product is separated from the creator. You don't care who assembled your television as long as it turns on.
Sure.
But in a service business, the product is entirely inseparable from the provider. Therefore, people, the actual employees interacting with the customer, literally become the product itself.
Ah, I see. So a rude bank teller doesn't just deliver a bad service. The rude teller literally ruins the banking product in that moment.
Exactly. And that naturally necessitates the next edition process. Because the service is performed live, the flow of that performance is critical.
You're selling consistency.
You expect the exact same operational process at a global hotel chain, whether you are checking in at a lobby in New York or Tokyo. If the process breaks down, the product is broken.
But the most fascinating addition of the 7Ps has to be physical evidence.
It's brilliant psychological engineering.
It really is.
Think about it. If you buy a Rolex, the watch itself is the evidence of your purchase. It is heavy, it is shiny, it physically exists on your wrist. But if you buy $1 million life insurance policy, what do you actually get in return for your money?
Nothing you can hold.
Right, you get an invisible concept, you get a promise.
So the company desperately needs physical evidence to make that invisible concept feel concrete to the consumer.
Precisely. That is why insurance companies don't just send you an email. They mail you a heavy, watermarked, gold embossed paper contract inside a leather binder.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The heavy paper is the physical evidence of their invisible promise. It's why banks historically built giant, imposing marble columns at their entrances.
The marble has nothing to do with storing money.
Not at all. The marble is marketing. It is physical evidence communicating to the consumer subconscious that the bank is stable, permanent, and won't disappear with their life savings overnight. You can't hold the service, so you must be able to hold the physical evidence of the service.
The architecture itself is a marketing lever.
Yeah.
That is wild. Okay, so the 7Ps solve the crisis of the service economy, but another massive paradigm shift hits in 1990.
The Lauterborn shift.
Yes. Robert Lauterborn looks at the 4Ps and realizes they have a massive philosophical blind spot. He argues that the 4Ps are entirely company-centric. They look at the world from the factory floor looking outward.
Right.
So Lauterborn introduces the 4Cs, completely flipping the perspective to be consumer-centric.
I like to explain the 4Cs using a telescope analogy.
Oh, I like that. Let's hear it.
The 4Ps are like looking through a telescope from the corporate boardroom, aiming it out at the consumer. It's all about what we can make, what we charge, where we put it.
Yeah, very me-focused.
But Lauterborn took the telescope, drove to the consumer's house, and pointed it back at the corporation. He forced companies to view their own operations through the lens of the buyer.
Let's meticulously map out this shift because it physically alters how a company operates. The shift from product to customer value means you stop asking, what amazing features can our engineers build?
Right.
And you start asking, what problem is the customer actually trying to solve?
The classic example is the drill. The 4P mindset says, let's build a drill with a faster motor and a sleeker handle.
Makes sense on paper.
But the 4C customer value mindset realizes the customer doesn't actually want a drill. They want a 1/4-inch hole in their wall.
Such a great point.
If you can invent a laser or a specialized adhesive that creates that hole faster and cleaner than a drill, the customer will abandon your drill immediately. You aren't selling a product. You are selling the fulfillment of a need.
That immediately changes your R&D budget.
Yeah.
And then price transforms into cost. This is massive. It's not just the sticker price. It is the total cost to the user.
Think about buying a piece of flat pack furniture.
Oh, the nightmare.
Exactly. If the sofa is incredibly cheap, say a low price, but it takes you 6 hours, immense physical frustration, and a massive argument with your spouse to assemble it.
Your total cost is actually exorbitantly high.
Exactly. The 4C model forces a company to factor in the consumer's time, psychological energy, and convenience, not just their wallet.
Which bleeds perfectly into the third shift. Place becomes convenience. It's no longer about optimizing your corporate distribution centers to save on shipping. It's about how effortlessly the customer can get their hands on the solution.
Right.
And finally, the fourth shift. Promotion becomes communication.
This is the death of the corporate monologue.
Yeah, promotion is a megaphone.
Right. It is a one-way street where a brand shouts a carefully crafted message at a passive audience. Communication, by definition, is a dialogue.
It implies a two-way street.
It means the brand has to build mechanisms to listen just as intently as it speaks. The 4Cs represented a massive transfer of psychological power from the corporation to the consumer.
It fundamentally rewires the corporate mindset. But marketing isn't just about selling sofas and drills to everyday consumers. What happens when you are a business trying to sell to another business?
B2B, a whole different beast.
Totally. The dynamics of B2B are completely alien to everyday retail. And that brings us to 2013, when Ettinson and his colleagues introduced the SAVE model specifically for B2B contexts.
If you work in B2B sales, this is your holy grail.
Definitely. SAVE stands for Solution, Access, Value, and Education.
The B2B landscape is notoriously complex because the friction is so high. You aren't convincing someone to buy a candy bar on an impulse.
No.
You are trying to convince a purchasing committee of 12 skeptical executives to rip out their entire IT infrastructure and buy your $10 million software system.
Which is terrifying for them.
Exactly. The traditional 4 Ps fall completely flat here.
Let's dissect why. Instead of pushing a product, the SAVE model demands you offer a solution to a highly specific organizational problem. Instead of worrying about place, you focus on access.
Meaning you aren't just in a store.
Right. You provide dedicated account managers, 204/7 technical support, and constant availability across the entire life cycle of the contract.
It's an ongoing relationship.
Yes. And instead of competing on a race to the bottom price, you have to demonstrate concrete business value, proving that your $10 million software will save them $30 million in operational inefficiencies.
But the E in SAVE is where the real friction lies. Education.
Yeah, you replace promotion with education.
This is the hardest pivot for traditional marketers to make. In B2B, the buyer's actual career is often on the line.
Oh, absolutely.
If a chief technology officer signs off on a $10 million software platform and it fails, they get fired. They're terrified of making a mistake.
So they don't want to catch a jingle.
Not at all. They do not want a slick billboard. They want to be educated. They want case studies, dense white papers, webinars, and rigorous data.
But wait, let me challenge the mechanics of this. I understand why education is better than promotion once they are in the room. But how do you actually get their attention in the first place?
That's the tricky part.
Doesn't education require the buyer to already be sitting at their desk willing to listen? How does education replace the top of funnel awareness that promotion used to generate?
That is the exact friction point that worst modern inbound marketing. You don't educate them by knocking on their door and forcing them to listen.
Okay, so what do?
You educate them by publishing highly valuable, incredibly insightful content out into the world for free.
Oh, I see.
When that terrified CTO goes to Google to search for a solution to their massive supply chain problem, they find your white paper. They read it. They realize you understand their industry's problems better than they do.
You establish thought leadership.
Exactly. By the time they actually contact your sales team, the trust is already built. Education is a magnet. Promotion is a hammer. In B2B, the magnet always wins.
That makes total sense. It's about mitigating the buyer's career risk through profound expertise. So stepping back, we've watched Borden's 12 elements become McCarthy's 4 Ps, which evolved into the 7 Ps for services, then flipped into the 4 Cs for consumers, and mutated into the SAVE model for B2B.
It's a fragmented landscape of tactical tools.
Yeah, but tactics without a philosophy is just busy work. What the discipline desperately needed was a unified overarching narrative to explain why all these shifts were happening.
And right on cue, Philip Kotler steps back onto the stage.
The legend returns.
Kotler realizes the industry is getting lost in the alphabet soup of acronyms. He decides to zoom out and provide a massive, unifying philosophical framework. He divides the entire history of marketing into distinct chronological epochs.
Showing how each era was a necessary survival response to the failures of the previous one.
Exactly.
He starts with marketing 1.0, which he defines as the product-centric era. This is the pure industrial age. The mindset here is perfectly encapsulated by Henry Ford's famous quote, "Any customer can have a car painted any color that he wants, so long as it is black."
Classic. The company holds all the power.
Totally. The goal is purely functional. Standardize the product, drop the price through mass production, and let the sheer volume generate profit.
In 1.0, you are trying to fit people to products. The consumer is just an interchangeable cog, a homogeneous blob meant to consume the output of the factories.
But 1.0 inevitably fails.
Right, because of a basic economic principle, competition.
Yeah.
Once 3 other car companies figure out how to mass produce cars, and they offer them in blue, red, and green, Henry Ford's model collapses. The consumer suddenly has choices.
Which forces the evolution into marketing 2.0, the customer-centric era. The information economy is rising. Companies realize they can't treat everyone exactly the same anymore because the market is too crowded.
Right.
This is where the concept of STP is born: segmentation, targeting, and positioning.
STP is a massive leap forward. Instead of making one black car for everyone, a company segments the market. Here is a minivan for large families, a sports car for single professionals, and an economy car for college students.
Makes a lot of sense.
You target specific groups and position the product to appeal to their specific psychological desires.
It is definitely an improvement over 1.0.
Yeah.
But 2.0 has a dark side. Even though companies are trying to satisfy the customer, the fundamental perspective hasn't changed.
No, it really hasn't.
The consumer is still viewed as a passive target sitting in a database. You are running focus groups just to figure out which psychological buttons to push to extract a sale. It is highly manipulative at its core.
And that manipulation eventually backfires. As consumers become more educated and media savvy, they start seeing the strings.
Right, they see right through it.
They recognize when they are being manipulated by a 2.0 campaign. The corporate veil begins to thin, which creates a crisis of trust.
And that crisis births what Kotler and his co-authors introduced in 2010, Marketing 3.0. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, this is a big one.
They announce a foundational revolution, calling it the human-centric era. The core thesis here is profound. Consumers are no longer just to be satisfied. They are full human beings who want to be spiritually fulfilled.
It is a stunning escalation of corporate ambition. Kotler argues that humans are complex, multidimensional beings. We have deep anxieties about the future of the planet, we have hopes for our communities, and we have an innate desire to leave a positive legacy.
Which is very different from just wanting a red car.
Exactly. Marketing 3.0 states that consumers will actively seek out and reward brands that align with their deepest personal values.
When I first looked at this concept, my mind immediately went to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but applied directly to corporate strategy.
That's a perfect analogy.
In Marketing 1.0, companies were just fulfilling the base functional needs at the bottom of the pyramid, getting you from point A to point B. In 2.0, they moved up to emotional needs, making you feel smart or attractive for buying the sports car.
Right.
But in 3.0, companies are aiming for the very apex of Maslow's pyramid: self-actualization, meaning, and mission. The stated goal of the corporation shifts from mere sales transactions to actually improving the world.
The value proposition is forced to move from the functional to the emotional to the spiritual. In a 3.0 world, your operational levers, your 4 Ps, become a mix of experiences and values.
But let me pause and challenge this, because it borders on the absurd if you don't look at it carefully. Is a toothpaste company really trying to give me spiritual fulfillment? Come on.
I know, it sounds ridiculous at first.
It sounds like slick corporate PR masking the fact that they just want to sell more toothpaste. Are companies actually acting altruistically? Or is 3.0 just a more sophisticated manipulation tactic?
It is a totally valid skepticism. But Kotler isn't arguing that corporations suddenly became benevolent saints. He is arguing that market dynamics forced them to adopt this stance for pure survival.
Oh, I see.
Think about functional parity. Today, almost every toothpaste on the shelf cleans your teeth perfectly well. The functional difference is 0. The emotional difference, minty fresh breath, is also 0.
Okay, so if a consumer is staring at 2 identical tubes of toothpaste, how do you win?
You are forced to compete on the axis of values. You say, our tube is made from 100% recycled ocean plastic, and we donate 10% of our profits to clean water initiatives.
Oh, you win the tiebreaker through a shared value system.
Exactly. Look at brands like Patagonia or Tawny Spesh shoes. They built massive, highly profitable empires, not by having functionally superior fabric or rubber, but by aggressively weaving their environmental and social missions into the core of their product.
Right.
If a company in the 3.0 era pollutes the river behind their factory or treats their supply chain workers terribly, the modern consumer will find out and they will violently reject that brand no matter how good the product is. The brand must stand for something larger than its profit margin or the market will destroy it.
So 3.0 is a beautiful, necessary evolution driven by consumer power. But what happens to that carefully crafted corporate mission when you suddenly drop a supercomputer into the pocket of every single one of those spiritually seeking humans?
The smartphone changes everything.
What happens when you introduce ubiquitous high-speed internet and social media?
Well, everything shatters and accelerates. The speed of communication completely outpaces the ability of any corporation to control its own narrative. And that brings us to Marketing 4.0, published in 2016, the transition from traditional to digital.
Now, importantly, Kotler doesn't throw away the human-centric philosophy of 3.0. He doesn't say values don't matter anymore. Instead, he layers a massive digital infrastructure right over the top of those values.
Right.
To navigate this new terrain, he introduces the digital 4Cs. This is an update to Lauterborn's old 4Cs, designed specifically for the internet age.
We have to break these down mechanically because they perfectly capture how the internet obliterated traditional corporate control.
Let's do it.
The first digital C is co-creation. In the digital age, products aren't just designed in a secret corporate bunker and handed down from on high. They're developed in real-time tandem with the community.
So the consumer is involved.
Yes. Brands use crowdsourcing to design new flavors. Open source software relies on a global community of developers. Video games are constantly updated based on player subreddits. The consumer literally becomes an unpaid member of the R&D team.
Then we have communal distribution. The concept of place is completely upended. It's not just a physical store or a corporate warehouse anymore. It's peer-to-peer sharing.
Right.
It's digital marketplaces like Etsy. It's the entire sharing economy, Uber, Airbnb. The community itself becomes the distribution network.
And then there is conversation. We touched on this earlier, but the internet makes it absolute. A brand can no longer dictate its reputation through advertising.
No way.
If you run a multi-million-dollar, beautifully produced ad campaign claiming to be an eco-friendly 3.0 company, but a teenager posts a viral video of your product wrapped in layers of unrecyclable plastic.
The conversation on social media will instantly destroy your ad narrative.
Exactly. The brand is no longer what the company says it is. A brand is strictly defined as what consumers tell each other it is.
Now, I have to stop on the final C, currency. Kotler argues that in Marketing 4.0, traditional fixed price transforms into currency, meaning prices become highly dynamic, fluctuating in real time based on algorithmic variables.
This is a controversial one.
I have a major pushback here, not from a moral standpoint, but from a brand equity and consumer trust perspective. Is this dynamic currency concept actually sustainable?
It's a great question.
When an algorithmic rideshare app surges its prices by 400% during a rainstorm because it detects high demand, that destroys consumer trust. It feels predatory. How does a company balance the human-centric empathy of 3.0 with the ruthless algorithmic efficiency of 4.0 dynamic pricing?
That is the ultimate friction point of the digital era. You are highlighting the exact tension between long-term brand equity and short-term profit extraction. Mechanically speaking, dynamic pricing is value neutral.
Really? Value neutral?
Yes, it is just an algorithm balancing supply and demand. If a hotel has empty rooms at 9 p.m., dynamic pricing drops the rate instantly to fill the room. That greatly benefits a budget-conscious consumer. It's highly efficient.
Right, but the inverse is where the damage happens.
Exactly. The same algorithm detects a sudden spike in demand and instantly quadruples the price to capture the maximum consumer surplus. The technology enables perfect economic efficiency, but you are entirely correct that the application of that efficiency can severely damage a brand.
Because it feels like gouging.
Exactly. If a company is truly operating with a marketing 3.0 human-centric mindset, they will put guardrails on their algorithms, they will cap surge pricing to maintain trust. If they don't, they are just using 4.0 digital tools to aggressively execute a manipulative 1.0 profit extraction strategy, and the 4.0 conversation will eventually punish them for it.
That is a crucial distinction. The tool is neutral. The application reveals the brand's true character. Marketing 4.0 also maps out how this hyper-connected digital environment permanently changed the mechanics of how we buy things, introducing the 5A customer journey.
The 5A model aware, appeal, ask, act, advocate.
The classic marketing funnel used to be incredibly simple. You hear a radio ad, you walk into a store, you buy the thing.
So simple.
But the 5A model shows how convoluted the process is now. First, you become aware of a brand through a targeted ad. Then, the product has to appeal to you emotionally. But then, and this is the stage that changed the world, you ask.
The ask stage is the crucible of modern commerce.
Yes. Before you ever click buy, you leave the company's ecosystem entirely. You go to YouTube and watch a 20-minute unboxing video. You search Reddit for brutally honest reviews. You text a friend who owns one.
You consult the global hive mind.
Only if the product survives the ask stage do you finally act and make the purchase. And if your post-purchase experience is phenomenal, you become an advocate, recommending it to others online, which feeds directly back into someone else's aware stage.
And notice the vulnerability there. The ask and advocate stages are entirely outside the corporation's control. They are powered by the peer-to-peer connectivity of 4.0. The consumer is constantly checking the community consensus before acting.
So 4.0 gave consumers total power. Brands were suddenly drowning in an ocean of community feedback, dynamic pricing data, and fractured digital touchpoints.
Too much data.
They physically couldn't read all the tweets, analyze all the reviews, or manually adjust all the prices. Human marketers were drowning in data. How does a brand survive when the sheer volume of the conversation scales beyond human capacity?
That exact crisis of scale birthed the next era. In 2021, we get Marketing 5.0, subtitled Technology for Humanity.
This is where we start seeing the heavy integration of advanced technologies like artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
But Kotler establishes a very specific philosophical guardrail here.
Right.
His core thesis in 5.0 is that technology should mimic humans, not replace them. The goal is to use tech to augment human capabilities, to filter the noise, so the human marketer can actually deliver empathy at scale.
Let's look at the mechanical layers introduced in 5.0 to solve this crisis of scale. First, you have data-driven marketing. This is the foundation.
Everything is tracked.
Exactly. Every single click, hover, and purchase is collected into vast data lakes. But raw data is useless without the second layer, predictive marketing. This is where AI algorithms process those millions of data points to guess with startling accuracy what you are going to do next. Are you about to churn and cancel your subscription?
The AI flags it before you even make the decision.
Exactly.
And then we get to contextual marketing, which is where it gets highly personalized. Can you explain the mechanics of how contextual marketing actually works in real time?
Contextual marketing utilizes hardware sensors like the GPS in your phone or digital geofencing around a physical store.
Okay.
If you have a coffee shop app installed and you physically walk within 100 feet of that shop on a Tuesday morning when it's raining, the AI knows your location, knows the weather, and knows your historical purchase data.
Wow.
It instantly pushes a personalized notification to your screen. Rainy morning. Get 10% off your favorite hot latte if you walk in right now. It is delivering the exact right message to the exact right person at the exact right micro moment.
Add in augmented marketing using AR and VR tools, and agile marketing, which is the software development mindset of constantly running A/B tests and iterating campaigns in real time.
When you combine those layers, you overcome human limitations. A human cannot analyze 1 million customer interactions a second to predict churn. An AI can.
Right.
But the crucial caveat of 5.0 is that the strategy, the ethics, and the empathy must still originate from the human marketer. That tech executes the personalization at a massive scale, but it should never replace the fundamental human connection.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the absolute climax of this entire 70-year journey.
Here we go.
We've traveled from Borden's chaotic pantry in the 1950s, survived the service economy shifts, moved from manipulating targets to seeking spiritual fulfillment in 3.0, connected the globe in 4.0, and unleashed AI in 5.0.
It's been a long road.
And every single one of those paradigm shifts culminates in the reality we are entering right now, published in 2024, Marketing 6.0, and this massive reality-bending concept of metamarketing.
This is the era where the boundaries of reality itself begin to collapse. Marketing 6.0 argues that we are moving beyond just using digital tools to communicate.
Okay, so what are we doing?
We are entering a phase where the physical environment and the digital environment are entirely indistinguishable from one another.
To truly grasp the gravity of metamarketing, we have to look at the progression of retail strategy. First, you had multi-channel marketing.
The old clunky way.
Yeah. A company has a physical brick and mortar store, and they also have a website. But the two systems completely ignore each other. They operate in distinct silos. You buy a shirt online, you can't return it in the store because the inventory systems don't talk. It creates a disjointed, frustrating experience.
That frustration forced the upgrade to omni-channel marketing. This is what most modern, competent brands do today. The physical store and the website are deeply integrated. You can buy something on your phone while sitting on your couch and walk into the local store an hour later to pick it up. The data flows seamlessly, but fundamentally, the physical and digital realms are still separate spaces. You have to put your phone in your pocket to physically interact with the store clerk.
But metamarketing, this is fundamentally different. Metamarketing is defined as the physical and digital worlds being so seamlessly intertwined that the boundary line vanishes entirely.
It just disappears.
And the entire sociological foundation making this possible rests on a demographic group known as the phygital generation.
Phygital, physical plus digital.
This cohort is broken into two groups. First, Gen Z, born between 1995 and 2010. They grew up deeply intertwined with mobile technology, comfortably navigating both physical and digital social spheres.
Right.
But then you have Gen Alpha, born after 2010. They're growing up with generative AI, spatial computing headsets, and pervasive voice assistants as a baseline reality. For Gen Alpha, the digital environment isn't a tool they use, it is their natural habitat.
The scale of this is staggering. Combined, Gen Z and Gen Alpha represent over 4 billion people globally.
Wow.
They are rapidly becoming the primary economic engine of the planet. And for these 4 billion people, the strict distinction older generations make between real life and digital life simply does not exist.
That concept is deeply mind-bending. Are we really saying that a purely digital experience carries the exact same psychological weight as a physical one?
Absolutely. Think back to your hook about the virtual Nike shoes. For a Gen Alpha consumer, an achievement unlocked in a virtual gaming space, a digital cosmetic skin they own, or a relationship maintained purely through a Discord server.
It carries the same weight.
The exact same emotional, social, and psychological weight as a physical trophy, a physical jacket, or a physical hangout at the mall. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a fundamental rewiring of how humanity interacts with reality itself.
So, what are the actual mechanisms forcing this digital existence into reality? What are the technological trends building this meta-marketing infrastructure right now?
There are 5 specific micro trends driving us here.
I want to spend some serious time dissecting the mechanics of each one. The first is the absolute dominance of short video content. We're talking TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to dismiss this as just shrinking attention spans, but mechanically, it is completely rewiring how information is processed. It is elevating visual narrative over text.
The velocity of information consumption has gone exponential. In the past, a brand had a 60-second television spot to slowly build a narrative arc, introduce a problem, and present a solution.
Now you have what, 3 seconds?
Exactly. Short video demands that a brand communicates its entire aesthetic, its value proposition, and its emotional hook in under 3 seconds. It forces marketing to become hyperdense. If the visual doesn't instantly arrest the scroller's thumb, the brand ceases to exist.
The second trend is community-based social media, platforms like Discord, Reddit, and Twitch. These platforms make it mandatory for brands to exist within a community rather than just broadcasting to it from the outside.
Mm-hmm. This is the ultimate evolution of the communal aspect of Marketing 4.0. On a platform like Discord, a brand cannot buy a banner ad and walk away.
It'd be ignored or mocked.
They have to host their own servers, participate in daily granular conversations, and become an active, contributing member of a hyper-niche subculture. The brand has to act like a citizen of the digital community. If they act like a corporation, they are immediately exiled.
Trend number 3 is interactive e-commerce. This encompasses live stream shopping and shoppable videos.
This fundamentally breaks the traditional customer journey. Historically, consuming entertainment and utilitarian purchasing were 2 separate acts. You watch a TV show for fun, then you drive to the store to buy clothes.
Right.
Interactive e-commerce fuses them permanently. You are watching a charismatic influencer live streaming an outfit haul, and with a single tap on the screen, the exact jacket they are wearing is purchased and shipped to your house without ever leaving the video stream. The content itself is the storefront. The friction between desire and acquisition drops to 0.
The fourth trend is language-based AI. The explosion of ChatGPT and advanced conversational voice assistants. This integrates natural language interfaces directly into the marketing flow.
This fulfills the ultimate promise of Lauterborn's communication as a 2-way dialogue, but it solves the human bottleneck. A brand can now hold millions of deep, highly personalized, context-aware conversations simultaneously.
It's incredible.
The friction of navigating a clunky website menu or typing search terms is completely replaced. You simply ask a question out loud in natural language. What's a good running shoe for flat feet? And the AI instantly provides a customized, interactive solution.
And the final micro trend, which feels like pure cyberpunk sci-fi, is the proliferation of wearable devices. AR glasses, smartwatches, biometric rings. These devices literally turn the human body into a permanent marketing touchpoint.
Track the physical progression of the screen over time. First, the screen was a heavy, immobile box sitting on a desk in your home office. Then it shrank into a piece of glass that lived in your pocket. You still had to choose to pull it out. Now, with wearables, the digital interface is resting directly on our skin and sitting inches from our retinas.
It's just always there.
The digital overlay is constantly, permanently mediating our perception of the physical environment around us.
So you take those 5 trends: hyperfast video, niche digital communities, frictionless interactive buying, conversational AI, and pervasive wearables. And they conspire to build the infrastructure of Marketing 6.0.
That's the foundation.
Let's walk through the actual architecture of this new reality. How are companies mechanically constructing metamarketing? It is broken down into 3 distinct layers.
Layer 1 is the technological enablers. This is the foundational plumbing and wiring. These are the engines running quietly in the background, generating the data required to blend the physical and digital. There are 5 key technologies working in concert here.
Let's trace the data flow. First, you have the IoT, the Internet of Things. These are the millions of physical sensors in the world. Your smart fridge, the GPS in your car, the Bluetooth beacons in a retail store.
Right.
IoT is constantly gathering real-time physical interaction data. That massive ocean of raw physical data is then fed into the second technology, artificial intelligence.
The AI processes that data instantly to map your behavior and generate predictive, personalized actions.
But to make that data visible in the real world, you need the third technology, spatial computing. Spatial computing is the mathematical bridge. It isn't just a headset. It is the real-time mathematical mapping of your physical environment.
Like LiDAR.
Exactly. A LiDAR scanner on your phone bounces light off your physical coffee table so the software understands the exact 3D geometry of your room. Without that precise mapping, digital objects can't interact with physical space.
Once the room is mapped, you use the fourth technology, AR and VR. Augmented and virtual reality provide the immersive user interface. The AR glasses project the digital object onto the spatially mapped physical coffee table.
And finally, the fifth technology, blockchain. Because in a world of infinitely reproducible digital assets, blockchain provides the secure, decentralized ledger that proves you actually own that digital Nike shoe. It creates artificial scarcity and trust in the digital realm.
So that entire stack, IoT to AI to spatial computing to AR to blockchain, is just the basement layer. Layer 2 consists of the environments.
Okay, what does that mean?
Once the plumbing is built, where does the experience actually take place? It happens in extended reality spaces and the metaverse. These are the newly constructed stages where the brand and the consumer actually meet and interact.
Which leads directly into layer 3, the customer experience itself. How does it actually feel to the consumer?
The framework categorizes this into 3 distinct experience dimensions. The first one is multisensory marketing.
This is where things get wild.
It really does. We are moving beyond just sight and sound on a flat screen. Marketing 6.0 aims to incorporate touch, smell, and even taste into the digital physical experience. In a world where consumers are completely numb to visual and auditory digital noise, the physical senses become premium, untapped real estate.
Give us an example of how that works mechanically.
Imagine you are walking through a city wearing AR glasses. You glance at a digital augmented billboard for a new bakery. The spatial computing recognizes your gaze.
Okay.
The IoT infrastructure in the physical billboard instantly releases a synchronized, highly localized burst of engineered synthetic fresh bread sent directly into your path.
Wow, literally smelling the ad.
Yes. While your smartwatch delivers a subtle haptic vibration that mimics the warmth of an oven, that is a multi-sensory meta-marketing experience. It bypasses the logical brain and hits the primal sensory cortex.
This is both awe-inspiring and slightly terrifying. The second dimension is spatial marketing. This is where physical architecture is entirely redesigned to serve the experience.
Apple Store and IKEA are the classic examples.
Right. They explicitly position their physical footprints as a third place, a sociological concept, meaning a space that is neither your home nor your workplace, but a community gathering spot.
This is a crucial pivot. An Apple Store is not architected primarily as a warehouse to distribute cardboard boxes of iPhones. It is architected exactly like a town square.
With the trees and everything.
Exactly. There are trees, there is open space. You go there to take a photography class, to socialize, to experience the physical manifestation of the digital ecosystem.
And IKEA does something similar, right?
Yes. IKEA forces you to walk through a highly curated, fully realized spatial maze. They aren't just selling you a coffee table. They are immersing you in a 3D spatial narrative of what your entire idealized domestic life could look like. In meta marketing, the physical space itself is the marketing.
And the third dimension brings us back to our opening hook, metaverse marketing. Brands creating native experiences inside virtual worlds. Nike selling digital sneakers inside Roblox, or Wendy's building a full restaurant inside Fortnite.
Right.
They are creating digital products for digital environments
Mm,
because that is where the Gen Alpha consumer is actually spending their time.
exactly. For that teenager in Fortnite, the digital Nike drop is arguably more valuable than the physical shoe.
Because of the scale.
Yes, scale. Their physical shoes are only seen by the couple hundred kids in their high school hallway. Their digital avatar, wearing the exclusive virtual Nikes, is seen by millions of players globally. The social return on investment is drastically higher in the metaverse.
Okay, as mind-blowing as this 6.0 architecture is,
Mhm.
we have to look at this critically. The industry doesn't just swallow the meta marketing hype completely whole without pushback. There is a very real, very heavy academic critique regarding the specific rollout of Marketing 6.0.
Yes, and examining that friction is essential. The primary academic and industry critique is that the 6.0 framework over-indexed heavily on the concept of the metaverse.
Which didn't quite pan out as expected.
Exactly. If you look at the cultural timeline, the massive hype cycle around the metaverse, driven by Facebook renaming itself to Meta, peaked violently around 2022 and early 2023. Billions of dollars were poured into virtual real estate.
But by 2024,
Mainstream consumer interest had significantly plummeted.
it's the classic danger of writing a theoretical framework based on bleeding edge tech. Tech trends move exponentially faster than academic publishing.
Oh, absolutely.
By the time the ink is dry on a book predicting the dominance of VR headsets, the entire global market has already pivoted its obsession to generative AI chatbots.
Why did the metaverse stumble? Mechanically, the friction was too high. The hardware-heavy, uncomfortable VR headsets isolated people rather than connecting them. The software lacked compelling daily use cases for non-gamers. So the critique of 6.0's timing regarding the metaverse is incredibly valid.
Right. But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Even if we aren't all strapping VR headsets to our faces for 10 hours a day, the fundamental underlying thesis of Marketing 6.0 remains incredibly robust.
That is the enduring value. The terminology of the metaverse might fade, but the concept of holistic experience architecture is permanent.
It's a new job description.
Completely. The job description of a marketer is forever changed. You are no longer just writing clever ad copy or adjusting price elasticity models. You are an architect. You're utilizing AI, spatial data, and human psychology to design a seamless, blended environment where a consumer lives, interacts, and extracts value across both physical and digital planes.
So as we wrap up this massive 70-year expedition through Kotler's historical lens, we can synthesize this entire sprawling journey into three grand, undeniable paradigm shifts.
Yeah.
Three massive currents that have carried commerce from 1950 all the way to today.
I'll turn.
The first grand shift is the movement from production to customer. This was the painful transition from the 4 Ps to the 4 Cs. It represents the realization that ultimate business success doesn't come from looking inward and asking, what can my factory manufacture? It comes from looking outward and asking, what does the customer actually desire to solve their problems? It was a total inversion of power.
The second grand shift is the movement from product to service to experience. This traces the progressive abstraction of the entire global economy.
Abstracting value.
Exactly. We started by valuing tangible physical goods, cars, and refrigerators. Then we shifted to valuing actions performed for us, flights, and banking. And finally, we arrived at a state where we assign the highest premium to the emotional, perceptual, and spiritual meaning of an immersive experience.
And the third grand shift is the trajectory from mass to personal. We began in an era of mass media, using 3 TV channels to broadcast uniform, homogenized messages to an undifferentiated crowd. Today, driven by immense IoT datasets, spatial computing, and AI algorithms, we possess the capability to construct a highly personalized marketing mix, a custom-tailored slice of reality for every single individual human being on the planet simultaneously.
It is truly staggering when you step back and look at it.
To bring this entire journey full circle, there's a brilliant piece of wisdom from Philip Kotler himself that perfectly encapsulates everything we've discussed. He said, "The marketing mix is not a static answer, but an evolving question."
I love that quote.
I absolutely love that framing. It ties the last 70 years together beautifully. From Borden's chaotic, unwieldy pantry to McCarthy's elegant 4 Ps through the human-centric spiritual mission of 3.0 and right into the phygital AI-driven matrix of 6.0.
Marketing has never been about finding one permanent mathematical formula to solve commerce.
No, it has always been an ongoing, relentless dialogue about how we connect with each other, how we create mutual value, and how we adapt to the constantly changing condition of what it means to be human.
It is a continuous evolution, and it shows no signs of slowing down. But, standing where we are today at the bleeding edge of metamarketing and AI, it leaves us staring into a rather profound, almost unsettling future.
How so?
Well, think about the trajectory we've just mapped out. If generative AI, spatial computing, and biometric wearables continue to improve, they will eventually allow companies to perfectly predict and instantly fulfill our deepest functional, emotional, and spiritual needs.
Wow.
And they will do it before we even consciously articulate those needs to ourselves. If the system's predictive modeling becomes that flawless, does the very concept of marketing as an act of persuasion become entirely obsolete?
That is a wild thought.
If the algorithm already knows exactly what you want and automatically procures it for you, does marketing simply disappear, leaving nothing behind but the silent, automated logistics of delivery?
Wow. From the deafening chaos of the post-war factory floor to a silent future where human persuasion is entirely replaced by algorithmic precognition. That is a massive, paradigm-shattering thought to chew on.
Something to keep you up at night.
Truly. Thank you for joining us on this incredible evolutionary journey. Keep questioning the physical and digital realities being built around you, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.